Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today I decided to give you guys a glimpse at my self-pubbed indie fantasy TBR. This is something that I've been really wanting to read more of this year. I think that reading indie authors and self-published books is a great way to find the next up-and-coming thing, and it's also like we've seen artists' dreams come true with things like the Atlas 6 that were picked up by a big publisher due to like the love it got on TikTok, and I just want to read more of those, and I want to be able to help authors get to that point. But also, there's just so many incredible books that are self-pubbed and they don't get a push, they don't get a love. So obviously, going into this list, I have not read a single one of these at this moment in time, but these are all the ones that I am wanting to read in the near future. I figured we'd start with my physical TBR and then I'd move on to my Kindle. Most self-pubbed indie fantasy books I find are on Kindle Unlimited, so if you do pay for Kindle Unlimited or you're thinking about paying for Kindle Unlimited, that is where I read most of these books, or I have a Kindle copy and then I end up getting a physical copy as well. I have a small list of physical and then a larger list of Kindle Unlimited that is always expanding. The first on my physical book list is Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. This is probably one of the ones I am most excited to get to. I've heard nothing but great things from anyone I know who's read it. The blurbs on the back look incredible. The concept looks incredible. It is a chunky book. It's just about 1,000 pages, I think. And I'll show you what the writing looks like. And it's a good flop. I feel like I need a floppy test for all my books. Plus, bonuses for Dragon Mage. It is a female author, and I believe our protagonist is on the autism spectrum, so we have some representation happening. Dragon Mage follows a ram who is your regular protagonist who lives in a small fishing village, but he doesn't realize that he has powers beyond his imagination. When he finally figures out he has powers, he ends up going to an academy for mages where they train for the greatest honor there is, to be a dragon rider. But the world needs more than a dragon rider, and will a ram fulfill the potential he has? This sounds good. This sounds good. Sounds like a typical Chosen One story, which is some of my favorite. I love a Chosen One trope that's like reimagined and somehow made different. And I mean dragons. The next one on my list is A Voice of War by Zach Argyle. This is Threadlight #1, and I believe the third book in the series comes out this year or just came out. What really sold me on this book is the Goodreads synopsis says that their child is destined to save the world if only they can keep the damn thing alive, and that got me. Other than that, I don't really know much. I know that I think we're following a couple characters. How far will a man go to protect those he loves? A soon-to-be father with a dark voice in his head, a sheltered girl addicted to Threadlight, a young man whose life changes after he dies. Together they will change the world, whether they intend to or not. Please ignore him. Can you not eat my pretty bush? You can sit on my lap, that's fine. The next one is one I've seen talked about a lot lately, and it is on my March TBR, so I will be reading this soon. It's Ilborn by Daniel T. Jackson. I've seen this talked about so much, which I'm so happy for it as an indie author that they're getting so much love. This is the book 1 of the Ilborn saga. I have no idea how many there's supposed to be, and I think this was published last year, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be getting another one this year, but who knows. This one I literally can't sum up, so I always have to read the book. Long ago, the Lord of Dwell emerged from the deserts of the Holy Land, possessed with divine powers. He used these to forcibly unite the peoples of Angol before his ascension to heaven. Over 800 years later, in a medieval world which is threatened by war and religious persecution, 4 young men and their women begin to develop supernatural abilities. These forbidden and secret powers will shatter their lives that they have known, and will force each of them to confront the mystery of the ethereal gate which haunts their dreams. What does that dream mean, and how is it connected to their burgeoning abilities? As they experience conflict, love, lust, and betrayal in lands which are being overtaken by war, they must try to stay ahead of and to survive the sinister forces which are now pursuing them, for they are being hunted. Does that not sound good? Does that literally not sound good? I am pretty sure this follows 4 characters and it is multi-POV'd. Can't really tell you that because I haven't read it. I've heard nothing but good things. Amazing reviews from Slavic Reader over on Instagram and the Library of Viking, who has an Instagram and a YouTube page, and I highly suggest that if you like my reading taste, you should check him out. Honestly, and her on Instagram. I get so many recommendations from the both of them, and I love their critical reviews of things, so definitely recommend. I am so excited to read this. And the next one is one I hadn't heard about until the author had reached out to me asking if I would like a copy of his book for review, and I obviously said yes because it sounds so good. Shadowless by Randall McNally. The tagline on this is, "What if the gods themselves wanted you dead?" I was sold. I was literally sold from that. You can't get much better than that. As far as I know, this book follows children who are born without shadows, and there's a shocking secret to why you're born without a shadow, and then if you're born shadowless, the gods want you dead, and so the religions that believe and support in these gods, the gods send those people, those persecutors, after them, and so you are being chased literally because the gods want you dead. And I don't know, that sounds so good. I'm not summarizing this very well, but I just think that sounds so intriguing, and it's something I haven't really seen lately. Like, the concept of being shadowless, I feel like, is very unique, and I also love, like, a play on light and darkness, and so I'm excited. I'm really excited for this one. Another one I hadn't heard of until the author had reached out to me is The Swordsman Lament by G.M. White. This is the Royal Champion book one. This one is nice and short, which is always sometimes nice to see. It is just over 200 pages. There's the writing. This one has a beautiful, like, cream colored paper, and I much prefer cream colored paper than white. I don't know if this is just me that I'm picky like this, but the white paper is just so harsh on my eyes, but I find lots of self-pub does have the white paper. I think it must be cheaper, where a lot of traditionally published have this, like, creamier paper style. I honestly don't really know what this one is about, but so we're reading the back. A dead prince, a grieving king, a legendary swordsman accused of murder. Loyalty counts for nothing when the king demands blood. I'm already sold. Already sold. I mean, I was sold when I asked for it, but I'm sold again. In the ancient city of Valan, wealth and power descend from proximity to the throne. As a royal champion and confidant to the king, Belasco thought he was beyond intrigues and machinations. But when the grief-stricken king demands vengeance for his murdered son, Belasco discovers he's expendable. His options are clear: find the killer or die for a crime he didn't commit. Forced into the city's bleak underbelly as the palace mobilizes against him, Belasco finds unlikely allies in his hunt for truth. Can the veteran survive to protect his friends and prove his innocence? Join Belasco as he hunts the real killer from the royal court to the depths of the city's criminal undermine, finally learning the true meaning of the swordsman's lament. That sounds good. I mean, murder mystery in a fantasy book? I'm sold. I'm so excited. Honestly, self-pub fantasy, like, I don't know what it is. They don't get enough love, and they have, like, the coolest ideas, in my opinion. And then another more popular one that I am also currently in the middle of right now is Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. Don't really know how to say it. I'm very sorry. I'm just starting chapter 5 in this, and I'm literally loving this one already, so this one already has a seal of approval from me. I'm guessing 4 stars, but has potential for 5. The back of this one is also incredible, but what this one does follow is it follows a protagonist who lives in a village, and when these strangers come to town, they have a secret that ends up thrusting our protagonist into war, and he is not destined for greatness, but he is finding greatness, is essentially what I'm getting. I'm gonna read the back. Born in fire, tempered in blood. Etheria is a land divided by war and mistrust. The High Lords of South squabble and fight, only kept in check by the Dragon Guard, traders of time long past who serve the Empire of the North. In the remote villages of southern Etheria, still reeling from the tragic loss of his brother, Caitlin Briar prepares for the proving, a test of courage and skill that not all survive. But when 3 strangers arrive in the village of Milltown with a secret they are willing to die for, Caitlin's world is ripped from under him, and he's thrust headfirst into the war that has been raging for centuries. There is no prophecy, his coming was not foretold. He bleeds like any man, and bleed he will. So good. And because I'm 50 pages into this book, I'm unsure if we will be getting this, like, trial competition thing, if that'll be, like, the proving will be a major part of this book. I have a feeling it's gonna just, like, happen, and then we're gonna move on from it, which I still love a competition like that in the beginning of a book. It gets me so intrigued, because we have talked about it already, and then also there is an animal companion in this book, which I hope nothing bad happens to, because I am scarred from Hob, but I do love an animal companion. And this one was kindly sent to me by my friend Mel, who I love and thank you and appreciate you. And then the last one that I currently will have physically, but I don't actually have it physically yet, it's in the mail to get to me, is Nomads of the Sea by Kobe Zucker. This was also kindly sent to me by the author. The author had described to me as an adult epic fantasy with some unique world building and a host of different characters. In terms of comparisons, he says Prairie of the Orange Tree, and I'm very excited for it. I honestly don't know how much of this, what he told me, had me really excited for it, because it sounds like my kind of book. So we're reading the back again because it's just easier currently. In the Nissi Archipelago, a civil war festers. Zealous insurgents burn villages across the islands. In an effort to return the mangled people to the sea and free themselves to their Lissan overlords, Sig of the Mendal, the son of a diplomat, must combat the growing threat. As he stamps down the rebellion, he quickly finds his talent for bloodshed surpassing his talent for peace. Adalia Goss is attached to the Lissan company that has been sent to aid the loyalists. The daughter of a renowned physician and arcane scholar, her task is to learn more about the Mango mages who far outstrip the mainland sorcerers. Her efforts are hindered by the dark reputation of her predecessors. Back on Lissa, Bryn Urian, the inferno of Moken Pass, has lost his spark, once in the foremost mage of the royal army. He slew indiscriminately in the name of his queen. Now he finds himself enfeebled and on the run. Witness the beginnings of a story band of soldiers who came to be known as the Fish Gut Guard. I honestly think we're going to get found family in this, because obviously with that last tagline being like the soldiers who come to be known as the Fish Gut Guard, and I believe this series is called Fish Gut Guard. Maybe I'm wrong. And I'm just expecting found family and politics and multi-POV scheming, and I'm excited to see it. The world building sounds cool. There are a lot of intense fantasy names happening in here. I struggled reading the synopsis, but I'm still very excited. That's all that I own physically, and now I'm going to go to my Kindle Unlimited TBR for you. The first one I'm going to talk about is Owens of Strife by U.G. Gutman. As far as I know, this book follows a world where witches are bad and witches are like burned at the stake and murdered. And we have a main character who believes this is completely wrong, but he joins the witch hunters in order to undermine them and eventually destroy them. But he spends 15 years or something like that in the witch hunters, and when the time for his vengeance finally comes, he's a different person, and there are some villainous thoughts in him. I'm hoping for more of a grimdark protagonist with this one, and I don't know, it just sounds really intriguing, and I'm ready to read it. The last line on Goodreads says, even if he can kill the king and see this revolution through, it may not suffice to purge the voices from his head. And I think that sounds really cool. And the next one I'm going to talk about is Dragon's Reach by J.A. Andrews. This is #1 in the Keeper's origin. This book, as far as I know, follows a thief from the slums who finds a kind of found family, and they escape the slums only to find out the truth about the empire, and there's something happening, and they have to then go back to their city and convince everyone of the truth. But there have been so many lies over the years that it's really hard to convince everyone about what's about to happen. That's really as far as I know. That has me enough to be intrigued. This says, pick up the first book of the Keeper Origins trilogy today and begin the tale of how an orphaned thief escapes the slums, united a nation, and brought a mighty empire to its knees. Oh, interesting. The Keeper Origins trilogy and the Keeper's Chronicles trilogy can be read in any order. They take place in the same world, but are standalone series. So there are 2 series in this world. I didn't even realize that. But I'm excited by this one. Very excited. And the next book we're going to talk about is Paladin Unbound. This is by Jeffrey Spite. Jeffrey had reached out to me and he has sent me an Audible credit, but I also have it on Kindle Unlimited, so I just wanted to let everyone know that. I'm gonna read the synopsis because I don't know what it is. Like, I'm normally pretty good at reading synopsis and being able to, like, summarize them, but for some reason with self-pub fantasy, I think that they do a better job at what they're trying to do, so I just read the synopsis. Does that make sense to you? The last of a dying breed, a holy warrior must rise up against a growing darkness in Evelyn. The most unlikely of heroes, a lowly itinerant mercenary, Umra the Peacebreaker, is shunned by society for his mongrel half-orc blood. Desperate to find work for himself and his band of fighters, Umra agrees to help solve a rash of mysterious disappearances, but uncovers a larger, more insidious plot to overthrow the natural order of Evelyn in the process. As Umbra journeys into the depths of the Telsador Keep to search for the missing, he confronts an evil and after suffering a great loss, turns to the god he disavowed for help. Compelled to save the kingdom he loves, can he defeat the enemy while protecting his true identity, or must he risk everything? This one also sounds really good, and it's a shorter one. It's only at about 334 pages, so I always like to throw in a couple shorter books, even though we do know that my love is really at chunky fantasies. And the next one is The Iron Crown by L.L. McRae. This is the first in the Dragon Spirits series. And I mean, the word dragon and I'm sold. We already know this. Dragon and I'm sold. Fenn's first and only memory is finding himself in the middle of a forest, face to face with a dragon spirit. What? This like, I'm already sold. I don't even need to read on. I want to read this book, which is why it's on this list. But there you go. That's it. That's all I'm gonna read for you. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna continue. Mocking him. All knowledge gone apart from his own name. Lost and confused, his only hope for answers is Calidra, a woman living on the edge of the world with her partner. Forced to return home when her father dies, Calidra has put off facing her estranged mother for 7 years, and she begrudgingly helps Fenn, forging papers for him so he can avoid the Queen's inquisitors. But the mother is the least of her worries when they discover an ancient enemy is rising again. It should be impossible with the Iron Crown in power. And Fenn is terrified he might unwittingly be playing a part in the war's resurgence. Surrounded by vengeful spirits and powerful magic, Fenn's desperate attempt to find his way home might as well alter the fate of Tassar and every power in it. A new high fantasy series bursts into life with the dragon spirits who reign supreme in this magic-drenched world of Tassar. Doesn't that sound good? That one sounds so good. I literally need a physical copy of this. This sounds so good. And then the last one currently on my self-published TBR is Burn Red Skies by Kirsten Espinoza Rosero. And I'm very excited for this one too. We're gonna read the synopsis because it's just easier, but like the excitement for this one is real and I really do want a physical copy of this one too. Honestly, I want a physical copy of them all, but money. It starts with a rift that burns 1,000 scars into the sky, it makes the wind stop, it makes the stars go dark, and it awakens an ancient beast. And with it, a new rain of blood. It is the summoning. And at the heart of it is fire. When the summoner's army blazes through her village, Dove is forced into hiding. Torn from everything she knows, she begins training in the elements with only one goal in mind, to find her brother. She just needs to get past the summoner's army, but how can she slay a dragon that is already dead? Doesn't that sound so good? Aren't you sold? Don't you just need to read that book? Because I know I do. And that's it. Those are all the current books on my self-pubbed indie fantasy TBR. I'm always adding to this. There's always more. I can't stop, won't stop. I mean, adding books to a TBR is just like a hobby. It's literally a hobby. And I love to do it. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hoped you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you're interested in reading any of the books that I've talked about, or if you've added new books to your TBR because of this video. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me a comment to say that you were here, you can leave me a dragon emoji because dragons are incredible. They are elite, and we all love a good dragon in a fantasy book. So have yourselves a wonderful day. If you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my beauty channel, all linked in this description bar below. And if you are a self-published author, I am open for reviews and I would love to read your book. Have yourselves a wonderful day, guys.